Hi everyone, I'm Michael and welcome to Back Alley Bonsai. Today I'm going to be working on an update on these rescued elms that I collected from the neighboring construction site right before they got killed earlier this year. I sometimes get asked the question, do all of my trees make it? And the answer to that is no. A couple of elms out of this collection did not survive. My Hail Mary root cutting one did not make it, and my tall thin one also didn't make it. They all looked like they were doing really well, and I moved them from their rehab area over into the sun, and unfortunately we did have, as is common in Los Angeles, some triple-digit heat, and it was just too much for the tall thin one. Maybe if it had better established roots it would have made it, but it kind of cooked off, and that was the end of that. But most of them, three of the five that I tried to set up, actually have all done really well. We got this one, which is the one that's struggling the most of the three. It has some very interesting stuff going on with it. We have it's starting to, some of the bark is rotting away from it, but it's got a really nice solid live vein here on the back. You can see lots of growth on it. I'll bring you in close and let you take a look at that. And then I've got this one here, which this was nothing but just a stick when I put it in the soil. It was just a chopping of root. There were no roots on it. This whole thing was just one big thick root. There was no green on it at all, and it is sprung out leaves everywhere. So this is looking really, really good. And then there's my really big one. And then of course there's my really big one, which I have no idea what the roots look like under here, but we can see it has just got lots of greenery on it. So mostly what I'm going to be doing today is some branch selection. I'm not going to be doing any wiring or really any styling. It's just most of these have got way too many branches for what I want. So I'm going to cut them down, get a little bit more space in there, and pick out the branches that I really want to keep. So the first tree that I'm going to be working on is this tall thin one. This one had some greenery on it. I'll flip this around so you can see where it was originally growing out of the ground. Originally, this particular tree, again, this is just a big chunk of root, and it was coming out of the ground like that, and that is where all the green was coming from. And so I just literally, chopped it out and then stuck it. My twine has rotted away here. Not too surprised by that. It's okay, I can always retwine it. Yeah, it probably needs to be stabilized again. Yeah, so I chopped this tree out of the ground. It had a little bit of root on it. It had a little bit of green on it, and it has done pretty well. I did bring it into the sun. A lot of the greenery died off on it. I presume a lot of the roots died away on it, and it has started to rot away. You can see right here where it has started to rot away from the trunk itself, but it is still alive. All of this back here is still going. So that's what's connected to all this greenery up here. So here's a better look at the trunk as it's going into the soil and where it's rotting away. I did peel away most of the rotting bark earlier. There's still a little bit of loose material in here you can see, but a lot of what's left is still pretty firmly on there. And I obviously don't want to do any damage to any living material. You can kind of see how far down does the rot go. And this is all pretty spongy down here. You can see that, and that's all fine. Like, this will become characterful in the end. Somewhere down there are living roots. So that's all pretty good. I mean, this is all alive. Doesn't move at all. So, and maybe all the roots are just growing out of this one little section right here, and that's all that I got under there. I don't know. I'm not going to check it until spring. I don't want to do any serious damage to this tree. I want it to survive, because right now it's starting to look really interesting, and I think this is going to be really characterful. Moving up top, there isn't a lot going on with it, and I don't really want to do anything too drastic, as it needs all this greenery in order to make it through to the next year. and build out the root system and then have that grow out again. So mostly I'm just going to let this tree do what it wants to do for now. I'm going to clean up some of these little dead branches. A little bit here. I want maximum growth capability out of this tree while it recovers. I just want to kind of look and see if there's anything really out of place that I don't like or don't need. And at this point, it's really hard to tell other than some of the obviously dead stuff. But I don't want to go in here and clip away at something that I think is dead that turns out to be alive and vital for the rest of it. Fortunately, though, as it starts to die, it gets really brittle and is a little easier to break away. And that's always part of the process for me, is just kind of cleaning stuff up so that I kind of know what I'm really looking at. I want to clip that. So this is all really crowded, but it's not bad. None of the branches are shading each other out. I'm probably just going to leave a lot of this. Let me just clip the tips off, just to promote some branching in the future. That one's clipped back. I did a little bit of this work earlier. All right. All right, but I think that is it for this little elm right here. And the last thing that I'm going to do on this particular elm is I'm just going to take and secure it in place with a bit of twine. Next up on the bench is going to be this elm right here, and again, this one was just a cutoff of the previous tree. This is just the rest of the root, and I just stuck it in the soil, and as you can see, it is greened out really, really well. I presume that there's some roots in here. I have not taken a look to see what all is going on underneath. I really don't want to mess with it. I want it to kind of recover more than anything else. Again, same thing with the other trees. This didn't have much going on with it, but now it's got tons and tons of green growth on it. Got way more than I need, so I need to come in here and actually make some branch selections because it's very crowded, and I don't need all of this growth. So I'm going to come in here and thin some of this, and hopefully get a better overall look for the tree moving forward. And for this, I'm not really doing anything fancy. I'm just going to take out every other branch, essentially. And hopefully by doing that, I create enough extra space for the rest of the trees or the rest of the branches to take over. I'm going to remove any really, really small ones that are really struggling, like these ones in here on the inside. I'm just going to take them out completely. There's a lot of very, very fine growth in here. I don't really need this little branch right here. I probably don't need. This little one right here is going in a weird spot. I got this little one. Got these two that are fighting with each other. And they're kind of the same, so I'll take out the one that's inward. This one's crossing over at a weird angle. Alright. Got some weird ones in here, which I don't really need. I've got two growing out of the same spot here and here, so I think I'm gonna take this one. And then for this, I will take the one that's growing downward off of there. And again, we'll just kind of prune away some of the tips, hopefully promoting some more ramification without costing the tree too much. All right. And this one is actually really stable in its pot, so I'm not even going to mess with it. But that is it for this elm. So this is the largest of these three elms, and this one is absolutely, rocking it. It's tons of greenery all the way around it. It's growing everywhere. It's just kind of a bush at this point. So I need to do kind of the same thing. I need to go through and do some branch selection and figure out which branches I want to keep and which ones I don't. Same basic principles as before. I want to look for ones that are small or growing in weird directions and remove those ones and hopefully promote some of the stronger ones. So get rid of this one here, which is actually a dead branch, and this one which is growing straight down. Definitely don't need that. Some sort of weed. I got a couple of them growing out here down at ground level, which I don't really need. And at this stage, it's really hard to tell what exactly you need or even want. Where it is just a bush and it has no shape and no style and has nothing but potential and no actual direction that it's going, it's very hard to tell what you do and do not want. So mostly I just want to remove things that are competing with other things. So like for example, you can kind of see these two branches right here are growing right next to each other. And actually I have a third one that's actually crossing underneath everything and growing off to the side. And it starts all the way over here and it's decided to grow. And I have this branch right here, which is growing off on the left side of the tree and has actually been growing all the way over here. So I definitely don't need that. So I'm going to take that one off. That one's not super helpful. This one's doing something very similar. It's also crossing under a bunch of other branches to get to more light. And then I've got these two branches, which are right here, side by side, and they're competing with each other to get more light. But there's a third branch that's growing right above them out of the same spot. So I'm actually going to keep the one that's growing upwards and get rid of the two that are growing outwards. And then there's a branch right next to that, so I'll get rid of that. This one's also growing downward, which I don't really want. You know, those I can pretty safely get rid of, like this one right here. I'll get rid of that. So here's another weak one that's growing kind of downward. So a weak one that's growing upward. I have a bunch of them right here that are growing up and out. I certainly don't need all of them, especially now where they're crowding each other out so badly. Take off this one. And this one. And I'll keep this one that's kind of curving upwards. And here's another weak one. And here's one that's just shooting straight out to the side. I'm going to get rid of that. Here's one that's taking off like a real rocket. I'll get rid of the one next to it. And there's a little branch that's above that one. I'll take that off. Yeah, I think I'm going to take this one off as well. Get a little bit more space in there. For now. And I'm going to go ahead and shorten this big long branch. I'm just going to cut it back to there. And there is the big elm tree pruned up and thinned and ready for another year of growing. Well, there you go, everybody. That is my fall prune up and branch selection for my rescued elm trees. Please like, share, subscribe. If you enjoy this content, please leave comments down below. Happy to answer any questions you guys may have about these trees. I'm really excited about them. I think they're getting some really nice character, and I'm looking forward to see what they look like in the next year. And as always, have yourselves a wonderful day.